You are listening to the ReRACEables Podcast.
I'm going to give you a nice little detour
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the ReRACEables Podcast. I'm your host, Tom, joined tonight by Josh and Nicole. Welcome in, everybody.
I'm back.
How's it going?
We are back, folks, and we are better than ever. Somebody that's better than ever is John and Greg. John and Greg are better than ever.
What a segue.
They are better than ever. They are better than ever. I said it 3 times because they have not one, not two, but 3 straight first places, which begs the question.
Thanks.
Josh, you're not a betting man, but let me throw out this Vegas-based question to you. How big of favorites are they to win right now?
Favorites. I would give them a solid 33% chance of winning. They are very likely to win this season. And they're exciting. They are a good team. They're a strong team. I know that I've been pretty critical of them, and I still am critical of them. But they've been a team that has been able to outwit, outlast, outplay.
Wow. Survivor references in Amazing Race ReRACEables Podcast. We are off and running, folks. Nicole, are they the overwhelming favorites?
Yeah. I would say above 33%.
I would also.
I would say maybe like a 45.
Oh, how dare you. For another Survivor reference, folks. That's 2. TribalCouncilBlog.com for all Survivor. 45% to Nicole.
That was not
all Survivor
on purpose.
45 content. Check it out. 45%. Go.
45%. I think they're hitting their stride, and I think the other teams see them as a threat. Like the other teams see them and they're like, oh man, we better pick up the pace. They're athletes. Did you hear that?
Say it again. I love it.
They're athletes. So then again, they quit. They didn't surpass Rob and Corey to get that fast pass, but
Express pass.
what did I say? Fast pass. Oh, express.
Yeah,
pass.
this isn't Disney World.
Sorry.
All right.
Are they a strong team, or do you think that the other teams aren't as strong?
I think they are a strong team, and I think they are, dare I say, the Goliath among Davids.
Compare them to other seasons.
I don't think I would put them as high as Will and James, because I think they were real students of the race, and I think that really helps. Plus their personalities, Will and James were able to like build alliances and utilize that strategy. But I do think that you run the race at this point on 10, 20, 50, 100 times, they're going to win at least probably half the time. They don't really have a weakness. It's 2 guys. They're young, but they're not like really young. They're smart. They work through everything. I wrote down calm, cool, collected during this episode, and that's just kind of who they are. And I think ultimately, to answer your question, but also circle back to the favorites part of it, they can outrun, outthink, and outcalm you. A third reference, folks. Right? They can outrun Todd and Ashlie to the finish line, which I want to talk about in a moment. They could have outrun or outclimbed them to the top of the ski jump to get the express pass. Yeah. And I think that they're smart enough to outthink whatever the problems are in front of them, that they're ultimately going to make fewer mistakes and be a really tough out. I think they're a really tough out. Okay. One last thing about the first place finish for John and Greg. They win a trip to Namibia, a safari, some brewery tour, and they win it by not hours. We always talk about how much time people win by in the lead and the next leg. They won by seconds getting to the Dragon Bridge in the beautiful, luxurious Slovenia. And like literally, they're on the mat at the same time as Todd and Ashlie. And because they won by literally seconds, they win a trip for 2 to Namibia. Incredible. Is it a greater euphoric victory for them or a crappier, more horrendous way to lose for Todd and Ashlie?
Greater way to win, because you get the satisfaction of the first place. You get the satisfaction of, ooh, we beat those people by just seconds. And you get the satisfaction of, we're number one for the third time in a row, which is pretty major.
I'm sorry, Nicole. I think it's a way worse way to lose. I mean, they weren't even hustling that hard. We saw them even kind of give up a little bit at the skiing challenge when they were trying to get up that hill, and Ashlie just couldn't get up and was not really pushing hard. I mean, John and Greg, they just pushed a little harder, ran a little faster, and they made it there. And I don't know if that made them better, but it certainly showed that Todd and Ashlie are just not the competitors that we want them to be. Worst way to lose.
We're going to go to a new segment entitled Josh's Famous Sizzling Hot Takes. Josh, take it away.
Folks, you've been waiting for it. My hot takes, they are coming at you. Number one, John and Greg, they get to the travel agency and they made a big mistake. The problem is that they asked, is there anything earlier? And you know what? Here at Travel Council Blog, we know that is not the right question to ask. The question to ask is there anything that's going to get me there earlier? It's very different to leave earlier and very different to land earlier. John and Greg, make a better decision in how you speak to the travel agency. That is my first hot take.
I agree completely. And I don't know if that kind of subtlety translates every time, because that's a subtle difference in language. And I don't know, the travel agent understood that question and interpreted it. Maybe he did interpret it as what gets me there faster, but we don't know that. So I think it's a good point, Josh.
I mean, they still got on the earlier flight.
Oh,
I don't see, I mean, I'm not quite sure what the major issue was there. I think their bigger issue was their plan after they did arrive to try to save some time and really expand their lead that kind of blew up on them.
All right, sizzling hot take number two.
Give me the energy again.
This is a hot one. Are you feeling the grill going? Put the burgers on, just like we're going in the summer, and it's going. So here we go. You know what? CBS, hear me. Are you listening? You're listening. Great. CBS, I am sick. I am sick of these great equalizers. Every single episode, we are going back to zero, and every team is on the same page. Give me some action. If you're coming in first, you deserve to keep leading, and you deserve to have an edge. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of making every episode back to zero and getting nothing out of it. There's no sense in winning. Just don't come in last. That's not the way this game works. CBS, do better.
I disagree. There was no set equalizer this time. If that train happened to be on time, then they would have been 8 hours ahead. 8 hours, that's really significant.
The connecting train in Graz. Yep.
So I don't think CBS is to blame for this leg.
I agree. I want to see the people that are better take off and really open up a lead. We like the favorites. We like the favorites. We like the favorites. We're happy to see the underdogs go.
There we go. For the last sizzling hot take this week. Every single week, we either get a good Survivor or a good Amazing Race. We haven't gotten 2 good episodes any week since we've started. CBS, thank you. This week, I feel that we've gotten a sizzling hot, amazing, great Survivor episode that had me on my back. And you know what? Amazing Race, I thought I knew it. I thought I was following along. I thought I knew who was going to be eliminated. And you sucker punched me. It came right at me and it knocked me back on my back just like I was an hour and a half earlier. 90-minute episodes, Survivor, Amazing Race. We love 2 good episodes Thank you.
That I completely agree. We have a cross-pollination of Tribal Council blog and the ReRACEables podcast here tonight. And the reason is, like Josh said, we had a back-to-back amazing episodes, jam-packed with action, fun, nostalgia, and beauty. Amazing 3 hours of television.
And loved that we were actually able to watch it back to back tonight. CBS,
Yes.
it's too much for one night. We can't always accommodate it. If you could spread it out, it'd be great.
Don't listen to that. Don't listen to that. Don't listen to that. Josh's famous sizzling hot takes. Really love that segment, brought to you by Josh Warner Design. Check them out. Back to the race. We have to say goodbye to another team.
Good.
As always. Oh, good. Ooh, is the sizzling hot takes over? I don't know. We might, Josh, we might get a bonus little souffle here from Nicole. Nicole, Morgan, and Lena.
It was their time. That's why when they landed on the mat, I said, it's about time.
Wow.
It's been overdue. I'm sick of seeing them. They don't deserve to be there.
Wow. Sizzling. The crackling of the grill and skillet.
Happy to see them gone because they're just not good. I don't really have a good
Not good TV?
They're just not likable.
No.
Even with their like little sob story tonight, I didn't buy it. Is that bad to say? Sorry to the cousin if you're listening.
No, it's got nothing to do with that. It's about their connection with the audience.
I don't buy it. I'm sorry.
The perception that we got of them were that they're these two kind of stoic, firm people in charge. What did we really get out of them other than the one escape when Victor and Jocelyn got out and some arguments in the car? I think we touched on this with the Joe and Ian elimination. And I think Josh said it, and I'm going to echo it here, where there was kind of just a lack of a connection that we, the viewers, had with the team. Maybe it's because we didn't think they were long for the race. Maybe it's because our power rankings had them kind of low. Maybe because they escaped being eliminated by finding the tile faster than my man Victor. Shout out, Victor. But they didn't have that kind of connection like a Rob and Corey are having.
No.
They're not having the success that John and Greg are having and pose as kind of the team that could really run away with it. They don't have the story of that we got right from the beginning with Todd and Ashlie. So I think that their connection with the viewer was just less. And that's why I don't really feel much of a loss to see them eliminated.
Yeah, I mean, I think they probably were due a few weeks ago, but it's about their time. I mean, storyline wise, I don't know if it was their time. They haven't really been exciting recently. They've kind of just been flying under the radar, and I do like to see a team kind of decline and go out. I kind of like to see it coming, and for them, maybe we haven't really seen it coming, but we also have seen it coming from the beginning.
Right from the beginning. Remember the express pass?
Yeah, I have been extremely frustrated by their gameplay. And I think the number one worst move has been their express pass decision when they were in Vietnam. Like, it's just been pitiful to watch. I'm not going to miss them, but thanks for coming.
Yeah, I think like the great Simon Cowell once said, they're simply forgettable. Let's go back to the episode, the end, with Morgan and Lena versus Steve and Anna Leigh. Steve and Anna Leigh versus Morgan and Lena. Was there somebody that you were rooting for then?
Definitely Steve and Anna Leigh.
Okay.
I didn't love their attitude throughout the episode.
Their attitude?
Mostly Anna Leigh.
Wrong.
And I think where this stems from is, as a fellow speech language pathologist, we tend to have, speaking for all speech language pathologists,
get that broad that broad brush out. Sizzling hot take.
Most of us have a very specific personality type. It is a type A personality. And when things don't go perfectly, we can't handle it. We break down, we give up, we it's just very difficult for us to handle anything less than perfection. And I think a lot of speech people would agree with me, but I think like I saw her and I understood it.
No, I'll be honest. I was rooting for Steve and Anna Leigh, just like Nicole. However, I did not expect them to stay in. Maybe I'm trying to play the game of Amazing Race editing more than I am actually watching the teams and enjoying it, which is probably to my own detriment. However,
you are a resident editing in chief watcher.
oh, listen to me. So when Steve and Anna Leigh, when they climbed all the way up those stairs to get that express pass, and then they took that zip line down and they cut to them in the interview, knowing that that interview was after they had already arrived, Anna Leigh was crying. And you know what I said? I said, Anna Leigh, you're out. That's it. I know you're crying because you're sad because you're out. And I marked it off. I even wrote on my list, goodbye, crying Anna Leigh. That was it. It was over. And so that's where I actually commend CBS for playing the player. Thank you.
This was really hard because everybody has Steve and Anna Leigh dead wrong in their power rankings, but at least everybody's close, right? Had them 13th or 12th. That was it. We totally underranked them.
Yeah.
Okay. So there was that kind of thing going on. But I also had Morgan and Lena at 11. So like in the power ranking sense, I was rooting for almost a double elimination. Not possible. Anna Leigh knows we love her. We love Steve, right? But we're stupid. The absolutely no way we can come back. And I'm quoting her, as you know. I know we're dead last. We just have to have fun with it. The comment to the beard and mustache clowns. Oh, it's the last time you're gonna say goodbye to us.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
It was very,
Come on, Anna Leigh.
very dramatic.
And the Academy Award for most dramatic racer goes to
Anna Leigh.
Anna Leigh.
And, you know, when they went for the express pass and they missed the sign that it was
Oh,
over,
my
and when they went up all those stairs, I was just waiting for the guy to tell her, yeah, no, you can't zip line now. That's done. It's closed. And they'd have to walk down all those stairs. I was waiting for that.
But you know what? That surprised me. That surprised me because Anna Leigh has actually played a very strong game in a game wise. And it's surprising that she had completely overlooked the sign that the cameraman very much saw, taken, used, and she just kept going. And perhaps we're seeing a decline. Perhaps we're seeing a multi-episode downhill spiral. Do we see something in the future?
I think it started with the U-turn.
Yeah.
It shattered the perfection that Nicole talked about earlier. It shattered the travel vloggers Instagram filter of a viewpoint that she kind of portrayed in the beginning parts of the season. Now she's facing adversity.
I think,
and it's not easy.
You know what it is? It was the U-turn combined with self-driving.
Yeah.
And that is clearly not a strength for them. That is a clear weakness. Because that's every time where they get further and further behind is from the self-driving.
It's a great point, Nicole.
A lot of chatter, a lot of tension.
A lot of tension.
A lot of tension. They actually switched drivers at one point. Anna Leigh was driving, then we cut back to them and Steve was driving, and then went back to Anna Leigh was driving. Disaster in the car.
Circling back, I just want to acknowledge what we talked about, what we were surprised about Steve and Anna Leigh. And one of the things that I remember being surprised about is how much they listened to each other, right? When Anna Leigh said, Dad, I can't do this. I need you to do it. He said, sure, honey, I'll do it. And when he couldn't do something, she did it. And they listened to each other, and they were both that yin and yang that made each other better. And what's been interesting is these last few episodes, I don't know if they've been working together. I've actually think that they've been butting heads a lot. And that is what's making them spiral. And again, I think that that really goes back to like what Nicole always talks about so strongly in power rankings is the communication level between the two contestants, the two people racing. And perhaps that's why we rank them low, because we actually saw all of this coming, and that it was inevitable, right? A daughter and a father from the South. I mean, like, it's very clear that this was gonna be what was gonna happen if you run the race 100 times.
So that begs the question: has Steve overtaken Anna Leigh for the MVP of this team? We've seen Steve kind of rising in the polls here in this team's MVP race.
Yeah, I think in the beginning, first half of the season so far, it was all Anna Leigh. And now it's Steve.
Wow. That's a vote for Steve. Josh, has Steve overtaken Anna Leigh for the MVP of this team?
What I want to acknowledge is that in the beginning of the season, Steve said yes, and he did whatever she said, and they were in the lead. And you know what? Now he's fighting back. Now he's saying no. And you know what? They are not in the lead anymore. Is it Anna Leigh or is it Steve? My vote is that it's Steve on the negative. So I vote that Anna Leigh is actually the stronger candidate.
I think despite the poor performance by Anna Leigh, she still is the leader of the band. She still is the quarterback of the team, but they're on a losing streak. And I think it's heading to an exit, and they probably should have been out this week.
Yeah, I agree.
How about the fact that she couldn't even bring herself to do the challenge, saying, I wouldn't even be able to enjoy it. He would enjoy it more.
But I think that's what makes her the MVP, though.
I agree.
It was like her.
I agree.
It was the star quarterback for the first half of the game saying, you know what, let me hand it to the running back and let him run. Right? She couldn't make anything out of that. And she had at least a self-awareness, which I commend her for.
Yeah, I
I commend her for that, because my ass would have been up in that glider as fast as you could have put me in there. I mean, that was an amazing roadblock, right?
Yeah.
So can I throw this out at you? We know the roadblock was to go up into the glider plane, see the most spectacular country sights that we've seen so far. I think we all agree Slovenia is beautiful. Amazing.
We love it.
Yeah, our flights are booked thanks to Teddy Travel. Shout out. But
hey, if Teddy Travel wants to sponsor us, he's gonna have to contact us just like the rest of our sponsorships.
As we know, the roadblock, only one person gets to do it. I think this is probably the coolest experience thus far. Getting pulled by the little plane, you're in the glider, you get pulled up, you got to find the numbers with the binoculars in the lake that is as beautiful a lake as you ever see, mountains in the distance, you're up in this glider. They talked about how like quiet it is, the silence, because there's no engine, you're just literally gliding, and then you like the most graceful landing ever on the grass runway. My question is, like, how tough is it to be the person who's not able to experience that? And like, how do you handle that?
So I want to compare it to Bruce. Bruce from Survivor, shout out, but not really a shout out.
Shout out Uncle Bruce.
Yeah, we'll shout out Bruce. So he had the edge this week where he didn't have to vote. He didn't have a vote, and he had immunity. That man had nothing to do. That man was JC, just chilling for the whole time. And I wonder, you're right. I wonder what it's like to be that person that doesn't have any responsibility in a race where you are stressed and you are trying to see what's next and you are on edge and you are always trying to be better. What is it like when you get to a place and it's like, I don't even have to think right now. I hope my partner's doing great, but I don't have to think at all. I think that might be worth it more than the views in my mind, because I know how stressed it is to be on reality television, speaking from experience. Brought to you by the biggest little Christmas showdown.
Yeah, I would actually be okay with it for this challenge.
Really?
Yeah.
Because of the heights or just
No, I'm not afraid of heights. I think it's like it makes no sense. They are slingshotting you from one plane
no, the
10
plane in
meters
front
in
is
another
yeah.
plane,
Yep.
and then you're just
Gliding.
free gliding with absolutely no control of what's going on with the vehicle that you're in.
No engine.
And then somehow you just land gracefully. Like, it makes no sense. I would be very scared. I would be okay with watching.
It's also not to mention that you're almost a month into this race, right? And you are exhausted, and you haven't gotten to speak to your family, and you haven't gotten even to connect with the outside world. You don't know what Twitter looks like. You haven't been able to update Tribal Council blog. That's exhausting. What are you doing with your life if you're not checking Tribal Council blog every day? And so I too would want to have that break.
All right, with the plugs.
It's what we do here at the
We're gonna
ReRACE.
edit that out. We're gonna edit that out.
Enough.
No, we're gonna leave that in. I guess I was looking at just the experience, like how cool it would be. You're never going in a glider in Slovenia ever again.
It was an amazing thing. When we were watching it, I was like, I've never seen anything like that before. I didn't know that existed. I didn't know
Me either.
anything about it. And thank you, Amazing Race, for showing us something new and fresh. It's not just another rappelling off a wall or
Rappelling down the cliff.
right, which we've seen about 100 times.
And they're great.
Or like another zip line down, which we had also in the episode. It was cool. It was
Steepest
great.
one
But
in the world, I think.
yeah, I mean, that was a cool zip line. But I like that we saw something new that we've never seen before.
Is it a big deal? Is it a little deal? Is it no deal to be in a country for the first time on the Amazing Race?
Oh, I think it was a big deal. I think the racers felt that it was a big deal. Like they were making some kind of Amazing Race history by being there for the first time on the show.
But I think when they first cut to them, there was some jokes about Slovenia being Transylvania, and that's where Dracula is, and that's where Frankenstein. It did not read, and frankly, if you would have brought up Slovenia to me earlier, I would say, okay, cool, I guess. I don't know, but after watching this episode, just like you said, my flight is booked. I am ready to go. It is a beautiful country. They were skiing. They were doing bags of hay. They were beekeeping. Like, this place is very, very cool. Very, very diverse. I hope we come back. It was just absolutely stunning.
It's always cool to set a little bit of history. I think it's always amazing. We say it at least probably 3 times a season here on the ReRACeables as we cover it, that the Amazing Race, the best part, in my opinion, is that it's a window into seeing some of the most remote corners of our planet, the remote corners of our world, different countries, different cultures. And I think the beauty of Slovenia took center stage today. And I love it. I love watching that. It makes me feel good. It makes me excited to book our next trip, try to see what could be possible. If we can jump quickly ahead, transitioning from the beauty of Slovenia to back into the race here, we have another twist. We have a second express pass. There are 7 teams remaining at the point where this express pass comes into play. And there's 1,100 steps straight up onto the top of a ski jump. Looks like an Olympic ski jump lift, whatever. And Todd and Ashlie are the first ones. And they missed the entryway. And because of that little bit of time, those couple seconds, Rob and Corey, our favorites, I think it's safe to say, Rob and Corey sneak right in and get enough of a lead to fend off Todd and Ashlie, who eventually do find their way up the entryway to try and catch them. But I want to start here. Robin Corey talked about the express pass being more important than first place.
Yeah, I love the strategy here. I love that they're thinking that way. And I agree. I think it is more important than first place because say next leg or 2 legs from now, something happens that sets them back. They use that express pass, suddenly they're not last. So it could save them, which is more important to not be last than to get first place.
More important than the trip to Namibia also.
Frankly, I think they got lucky that they were not further in the race. I think that they were lucky that they had Anna Leigh and Steve and Morgan and Lena behind them, because all of the other teams are super strong, and they dropped to 4th place. They dropped to 4th place because they had to spend all of their time climbing up those steps. And so would you be willing to give up to 4th place to be in last place to get an express pass? I don't know. At that point, are you willing to be on the end just to possibly have the advantage? No. In my mind, you are racing each leg to win or to not come in last. And if you're going to put yourself in last place for the possibility of a future first place, it's just not worth it for me.
It's a tough question. I understand both points. Obviously, the express pass is something that is either a get out of jail free card or could lead to a first place in a future leg. I would disagree that the express pass is more important than first place, because though you want to race for the $1 million and you want to maybe get ahead using an express pass on a leg, I think we saw earlier this season how it can be misused. And I want to win first place. I want to win that prize. Of course, you want to win the $1 million, but only one team's going to win the $1 million. And if there's 10, 11 legs in the race, that means 10 or 11 times people can win a leg. And you want to try to win everything, frankly. I want to win every single leg and then win the $1 million. But if I can come in first place this leg, grab a trip to Namibia, so that's another once in a lifetime experience. I think it's worth it. Plus what Josh said, I really like too. I think it's a great point that there's a risk involved. 1,100 steps. I mean, you could trip, you could slip, you could bang your knee, you could be out of commission and make the rest of the leg that much more challenging. 1,100 steps is a long way, but it seems kind of easy enough to do. I think it was the right kind of challenge to win the express pass.
And I liked how it was set up, which I'm sure the CBS Amazing Race producers did not even plan for. But the fact that there was a platform and then another set of stairs that you couldn't see until you got to the platform. Amazing. Such good television. And like, if the other teams down below had seen that there was that much more to do, then it would have given them the confidence to go for it and try to overtake them.
Plus, it was great storytelling that Rob and Corey had. They were the ones up there who were catchable by maybe not Todd and Ashlie, but definitely Greg and John.
Yeah.
Right, versus if Greg and John's the one up there, nobody probably even goes up to try to chase them.
And I'm sure Greg and John watched this and are just kicking themselves that they didn't realize that.
Unless they can kick themselves all the way to Namibia and maybe they got $1 million in their pocket. So
to be determined.
I also just want to clock and maybe perhaps discuss, if you are Steve and Anna Leigh, you think you're in last place. If there is no token saying taken or not, do you say, well, actually, teams don't want to have to spend all of that time getting that express pass. They're going to want to just race and come in first place, just exactly like what we're talking about. And they say, we're going for it. We are going to take all of the steps. We're going to get it, and we're going to skip the line. What would you do, right? I mean, obviously, we know that it said taken, and they missed that. But judging from
wasn't obvious. It wasn't obvious. It was
I agree.
It was this little vertically written,
Yeah.
taken with a magic marker.
So would you, if you know you're in last place and you get to the challenge and it says to get this express pass, do you take it? Do you try to take it? Do you just say, I'm in last place, I'm gonna risk it all? Or do you say, no, I have to just keep competing because somebody probably already took it?
I think I would play a scared game and I would do the safer option to just keep competing.
Even in last place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would categorize it as scared, but I would play it more as
Safe.
no, I would categorize it more as a defeated game.
Mm.
A defeated game would drive me to say, no, let's just we're done. Maybe not cry and carry on like Anna Leigh, but
I mean, she was playing a
Yeah.
different game and yet she went for it.
And
which
yet she went for it, and she was the one rooting Steve on.
Mhm.
and he got up there. Shout out to Steve.
Shout out to both of them.
Amazing that him and Rob made it to the top. That's
It really
impressive.
is. It
That was a
really
lot
is.
of stairs.
It was a great express pass. Way better than eating some food.
Was it better than shaving a head?
Oh,
Was
you're
it-
referring to
That is
the
peak
fast
television.
forward.
Fast forward. I think I what's the difference?
Fast forward, you go immediately to the pit stop. Express
Yes.
pass, you get to skip one task.
Okay.
It's an abbreviated fast forward.
Okay.
CBS, bring back the yield. That's what we want. We want the yield.
Was it better than getting a tattoo?
I think the tattoo is more appropriately a fast forward.
Mm-hmm.
I think the shaving the head is more appropriately a fast forward.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Stairs and the eating, I like the stairs a lot better as an express pass. Those were the right tasks for those advantages.
I agree.
I agree as well.
Are we ready to cross the finish line? Final segment here. We're going to cross the finish line. Nicole, start us off.
So we saw the mustachios, as Ashlie refers to them as.
Joel and Garrett.
They left their notebook at the Beekeeper Challenge, and they had to come back for it, signaling that they're thinking about the long game, right? They're taking notes throughout the race in preparation for this anticipated final challenge, where we usually see a cumulative type of challenge where they have to recall things from throughout the race. The editing really did not make a big point of this. They briefly highlight it, and I actually had to tell Tom, did you notice that? And he didn't. We had to rewind and rewatch.
I'm taking notes for the people here.
Well, but you know, it just shows how fleeting it was. It was not made into to be a big deal. And what I think, my hot take, my crossing the finish line, is that it's irrelevant because they're not making it to the end. They're not good enough. They're
Wow. Shout out to
Yes.
Joel and Garrett.
yeah, it's not looking good for them.
I'll cross the finish line with this. During the detour fieldwork challenge where they were collecting, fluffing, and placing hay onto that 7-layer wooden fence piece, whatever that was, Kozelet, I think they called it. Teams were sneezing, teams were snarling, teams were breaking out and taking Benadryl.
That would have been you.
Yeah. Shout out to Robin Corey, because that was a window into a different side of the race that I don't think gets any airtime. I can't remember quite seeing something like that specifically.
Yeah.
But it's kind of reminiscent of what it's like on Survivor to deal with like mosquitoes and bugs.
Yep.
And I feel like those kinds of elements, and I would not have been, if Greg and John are sneezing and struggling with the hay, there is absolutely no way I would have lasted more than 2 seconds because my allergies are so horrendous. I have allergy-induced asthma. I learned that. Shout out Shelter Island. But it's terrible. And I wonder, did Rob and Corey have to do something like bring Benadryl?
It seemed like they had it ready to go in their backpack.
Right, but is that something that the producers or their camera or people on the race have, or is that something that they have to have? Makes me ask like medical questions. I thought it was just another kind of behind the scenes piece of the race that somebody like myself who struggles with allergies would have, when we're on the race, Josh, we're going to have to pack some Benadryl and wipes.
I'm on
But
it.
you know what? That's the kind of stuff that I love seeing as a viewer.
Absolutely.
Like, I want to know what happens if someone has traveler's diarrhea, because it happens when you travel.
It's got to happen.
We know all too well, unfortunately.
Shout out traveler's diarrhea.
But it happens. And so like, these are real issues that happen in real life when traveling. And that's what I want to see as a viewer.
Josh crossed the finish line.
Crossing the finish line, folks. This is not something that's a hot take. This is something that we all know. We're just bringing to light. Rob and Corey are the best television that we have ever seen. They are exciting. They are captivating. I truly, honestly cannot take my eyes off of them. I will watch 90 minutes of Rob and Corey and I will be happy. That's all I want. Rob and Corey every single day. Fan favorites. Thank you.
Do we need a spinoff on just traveling with Rob and Corey?
I think they would love that.
They would.
Brought to you by Expedia.
Yeah. And Benadryl.
And Benadryl. Okay, we're going to close out the podcast here. We're going to take a look at our season 35 power rankings. Morgan and Lena, the sisters, are eliminated, and that leaves a couple big numbers coming off the board, 2 7s and a double-digit 10. So Nicole had Morgan and Lena at 7th. Josh had them at number 7 as well. I have the most come off with a 10 spot, but the rankings still remain the same. Nicole is in last with a low of 53. I'm only 5 better at 48, and Josh is out by a smaller margin, but still out in front by 9 over me. Congratulations again to Josh maintaining his lead. Still takes a big number 7 off the board.
Just shows that you got to do your research in the power rankings.
Quiet you.
So Josh still has his number 2, Greg and John, his number 3, Todd and Ashlie. And we all had Greg and John and Todd and Ashlie at the top. Greg and John just ahead of Todd and Ashlie. So some consistency there.
Oh.
And I think if we were all re-ranking our remaining 6 at this point, I think we'd all have Greg and John at the top, Todd and Ashlie right behind, and our favorites, Rob and Corey, number 3. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Quick prediction before we say goodbye. Who's the next out?
Joel and Garrett.
Chelsea Robin.
I got to go with Joel and Garrett also. On that note, we are going to say goodbye. We thank you for being with us tonight. Thanks for watching and listening. Be sure to follow us, like us, subscribe to us on Instagram, on YouTube. Also, check out the Survivor 45 content on my website, tribalcouncilblog.com, covering the entire Survivor 45, including tonight's Survivor auction. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Would be great to see some version of that in the Amazing Race. Maybe that's a conversation for another podcast. But check out all the Survivor 45 content on tribalcouncilblog.com. Appreciate the support. And we will see you next week. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Josh. Until next week. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to our Instagram and YouTube and all of our social media here. Head over to tribalcouncilblog.com for all Survivor content, as well as links to our other previous ReRACEables podcasts from this season and other seasons. And thanks for listening. Really appreciate the support. We'll see you next week.